into, and thank you for talking with me, because I really believe traditional martial arts are not getting spoken about correctly. If that's the best way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Too many of the young kids thinking that there's a mix thing going on, mix this, mix that, and traditional martial arts has always had a flavor for all levels of combat, whether it be from the standing to the ground, from the distance to close. All of it had that structure built into it. So tell us about the Shotokan, because you teach, and why tradition has been misrepresented throughout the years.
Well, the way things are now, you have a lot of schools out there that are teaching match stuff and everything. A lot of schools have come from tradition, and they left tradition because they don't want to be able to do, they don't want to do kata, they want to get straight into fighting. But the thing altogether is that if you want to become a good fighter, they always say, the elders of the old style of training always said, you know, if you want to be a good fighter, you need to study kata. Kata is the gateway to kumite. Traditional martial arts is starting to die. And the reason why, because MMA is trying to push traditional martial arts aside. If it wasn't for traditional martial arts, MMA would not be around.
So how can we correct that as traditional teachers and students who say, stop thinking that this is some fast way to the promised land, and yet you still have to practice your kata and your basic structured techniques?
Trying to explain that to everybody. Everybody out there wants to get something fast. They want something to be handed to them on a silver platter. Nobody wants to train hard for it. That's the thing about it. Everybody wants to have everything handed to them. And when you talk to people, like in my travels, when I travel around, do seminars and things like that there, and I talk to people, they ask me, they go, Professor Martin, what do you think about traditional martial arts and MMA or things like that? And I say, first of all, I did MMA before it ever came out on the silver screen. And they go, what are you talking about? I go, if you're from old school, when you walked into an old dojo back in the day, and an instructor looked at you and said, you know how to fight? And you say, yeah. He goes, all right, put the gloves on, put the headgear on, and show me what you got. That's the way it was back then.
Yes.
Nowadays, every school around there, they're putting all this crazy equipment on these kids, teaching them how to fight, and they're all scared to get hurt. So when they do get up there to fight, without the equipment, they start crying like little babies. Now, old school, you got your dings, your nicks, your cuts, your bruises, and the instructor said, hey, that's part of life. Everybody wants everything handed to them fast and quick on the silver platter.
Let's, you know, and the reason why I love tradition is because bunkai means everything to me. Bunkai is the study of structure. So I want you to talk about bunkai and how it breaks down for you in teaching it.
When I teach bunkai, when I teach kata, I teach my students, I teach the Shotokan, the Kempo, Hawaiian Kempo, Okinawan Kempo, and Shaolin Kempo, and I teach Shorin Ryu. When I teach those katas, I break them down, and I break them down easily so they can understand. And like my daughter-in-law, she's having a hard time training on her katas, and my son grabbed her and said, I'm going to teach you help you with the bunkai. And she was here last night, and she was showing me because she had a problem with Shihan Nidan.
Okay.
And my son showed her the bunkai, and she caught on to it. So I think the bunkai is the greatest way to teaching somebody how to do things properly. From the kata, the bunkai is a little bit different from the kata.
Correct.
Okay? Because when you're doing the bunkai, you don't have to do the certain things that are done in the kata. Like in regular fight, no one steps into a straight punch. You see what I'm saying? And in a fight, somebody's throwing a punch from left field or right field. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So what you have to do when you're showing bunkai, you have to teach that stuff along in the bunkai, not just the regular straightforward straight punch, oizuki. You teach them how it's done in the regular life, how things is done in life. And by them learning it the bunkai way, they get to catch on a lot easier that way. And for young kids, you teach it to them in a smaller version of a bunkai, like say if you're doing Heian Shodan,
which is one of my favorites.
Right, Heian Shodan, when you turn to do the downward block and then the hammer fist, mm-hmm. Okay, everybody don't know that person grabs your wrist. You pull it away in a counterclockwise and come striking down with the hammer fist on the bridge of the nose or on the collarbone, and you step in for oizuki. But in the bunkai, it's the same thing, but you throw a yakuzuki.
Yakuzuki.
That's the thing you have to do and everything. And I see guys that step in with the bunkai, and I say to them, so no. I said, when you're close up on a person, you're going to step in on a punch? No, he's close enough on you. If that person grabs that hand that you've done the downward block from blocking the kick or the punch, and he grabs your wrist, you pull it away, come down, hammer fist to the bridge of the nose or to the collarbone with a yakuzuki to the solar plexus. Now that is the most easiest thing to do to teach somebody. But when some people teach it, they teach it how to do step in for the punch, and the person that's about to get struck, he blocks against it. That's the bunkai to that.
Right.
But when it's coming to outside and in the dojo and in the competition, there are three different things.
Yes. Out
in the street, it's all out. You got to use everything that you know. You got to think like the street.
Now,
yes.
Are your students, the students that are learning, are they having a tough time transitioning from the dojo to the street for you?
No.
No, not at all.
Not at all, no. And the main thing is here, a good teacher teaches students how to live, not how to fight.
There it is.
So I teach my students how to live. But if they ever get into that situation where they have to defend themselves, they will do it with their heart and their soul. And that's the way it should be done. Out in the street, nobody should have to worry about fighting in the street. If you carry yourself properly,
correct,
like a human being supposed to carry him or herself, you should never have to worry about getting into a confrontation. And if you do get into a confrontation, you know how to use your head. You know how to use your mouth. If it comes to the point that you got to do it, then you fight to win. That's what it's all about.
Now, how come, you've been around how many years now? You can tell people how many years you've been doing this a long time, Professor. You've been
I've been doing karate since I was 11 years old.
Yeah.
And I've been teaching since I was 18. And when I was teaching, I taught guys when I was in the military. When I got out, I started teaching in parks, backyards. So I was teaching for nothing.
So you've been teaching since what 70, 72, 77?
I've been teaching since about 73, 74, since 74.
Right.
Right? And when I was doing it for nothing. Because I was told from my instructors, you cannot put a dollar sign on martial arts.
That's true.
You cannot put a dollar sign on it. When martial arts were taught back in Japan, Okinawa, China, Korea, all them Oriental countries, it wasn't about money.
No.
It was about taking care of the community, and the community took care of the instructor. When the instructor taught the students came in, they washed the dojo down. They took the instructor's clothes and washed them and ironed them or mend them for him. They brought him food and everything. That's what it was all about. Nowadays, it's all about the mighty dollar. And they put the dollar before the martial arts, which is wrong.
And if you put them, you know, in my personal feeling, because of the whole science of the martial science and the martial arts and how it teaches on so many levels of life, if you put $1 before the practice, you're going to weaken the practice.
Right.
So how can we relate that to the community? Because like, sometimes our communities are failing because they've never embraced us like we embrace the community. How can we get that transition going?
By transitioning that there is going to the community centers, the city hall, having the people from the community centers come to your dojo, explain it to them what's going on and everything, going to the meetings. There are so many meetings out there that instructors should go to get to know the people in the community. You got to let them know what's going on because a lot of them don't understand. And a lot of people have let's see, martial artists in general, some of them have given martial arts a bad name.
How so?
There have been martial artists who are pedophiles.
Mm-hmm.
There have been martial artists who are rapists. There are martial artists who are drug dealers. There were martial artists who were druggies. There were martial artists that were very well known who gave martial arts a bad name and gave a bad taste.
So could we say they were martial artists, or could we say they practiced the art of martial? I mean,
they either practiced the art of martial or they were martial artists themselves.
Okay.
And they went the wrong way.
Okay.
I mean, the path our path is already drawn out by the Almighty God. God has written out our path before we even born. It's either we take the path or we don't. There's 3 paths you go down. There's one path you go down, which you're doing good for yourself and everything. The other path that you go down, which is doing bad. The middle path is you just ain't nothing there, and it's just straight darkness. That's what I do. That's what I believe in. And the path that I go down, now listen, I've gone down the bad path.
Mm-hmm.
We all have. But that's a part of life. And you got to learn from the mistakes that you made. And you got to amend to those mistakes that you made. And I have made a lot of mistakes in my life. And you know something? The things that I did in my life, I had people out there that come to me and said, you know something? We know about your military background. We know about the things that you've done in your life and everything, but you stuck with your training, and your training and your belief in the Lord Jesus Christ has helped you overcome what you're doing. And what you're doing right now, we are so proud of what you're doing. Now, these are people that I know that work in the city,
right?
In the police department, in the mayor's office, people that know me, that see me go through my path and go through my struggles and everything, and they seen that I fought hard to get where I'm at, to get to wear a badge. When I became a certified bouncer for the state of Rhode Island, I didn't think I was going to get it because of my record.
Wow.
But I had people come to me that were well known in the law enforcement and come to me and say, yo, Link, I see the look on your face. We know about what you did in your past is what you do now. Your past is your past. But society has a habit of taking a look at your past, but not what you're doing now. And they use that past and they keep it over you so you won't get to go anywhere because they hold it over you for the rest of your life.
So we're always fighting it.
Pardon?
It's always seemed like there's a way of fighting through it.
Right, you know, and you can fight through it. If you believe in yourself and you believe in the Almighty, you can do anything. And when I seen that I can do what God gave me, God gave me knowledge. God passed all that knowledge on to me. God set me to people that helped me with my knowledge. He put me in the path of Ed Parker.
Yeah.
Yeah, yesterday was his anniversary.
I know, I remember.
A couple of days was his anniversary.
Yeah.
God put me on the path to Nick Cerio. God put me on the path to many well-known grandmasters that have gone now, that have taken the time and teach me what I needed to know to pass on to the next generation.
And I think that's why when I started to do this, one of the things that touched me a year ago was that, you know, I'm in my early 50s, and I realized that, yeah, I have the title of this or that, but there are people like you out there that have still so much information and knowledge for us that I'm still learning. I'm forever a student, will always be a student.
Same with me. Same with me.
But I want to reach out to our seniors, and you're my senior, and I honor you and respect you. And there's times that we need to be still taught by what you have to offer, just like many other teachers, before you guys are gone. I mean, time knows no limits. It'll take everyone. And and so that's why I reached out to the mini grands and seniors saying, hey, we need to learn, because these kids don't know that there's a lot of miles, there's a lot of knowledge that's going to be left if we don't reach out and tap into it.
Oh, yes. I want to ask you something. What do you think about young children wearing black belts? I
don't do it. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with the junior black belt. I don't agree with the junior semi certain age. It's not for me.
But with me, I have students that train with me. I do not give children black belts. But my children that train with me, they get a black belt. It's got a white stripe in it. Now it's called a Kari Shodan.
Yes.
Right? Now, that belt used to be a female's judo belt in judo. That was a female judo belt. When a female was going to become a black belt, she had to wear that belt first before she went on to becoming a black belt in judo. And don't forget now, Master Funakoshi got the belt ranking system from Professor Kano.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? And no one knew about that there. I found out about the Kari Shodan about maybe 10 years ago. And because I didn't know, I had a lot of kids that I would teach in karate too, and they had got junior black belts from me. And a friend of mine from Japan sent me an email one day and said, have you ever did a little bit of research on Professor Jigaro Kano? And I go, no. He goes, you need to. He goes, because that there is a belt that women wore before they became black belts. They wore a black belt with a white stripe that went all the way around from one end to the other. Look at that. So I did. And I go, wow. I said, so I adopted that belt. So if I had a child that started training with me at 5 years old, and trained with me for 5 years, because I told people in my dojo, it takes 5 years to make a black belt. It doesn't care. I don't care if you train 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, 6 or 7. It's got to add up to 5 years. 5 years. So, so if you train 1 day a week, it's going to take you 10 years to get your black belt.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I get kids that train for 5 years and they're ready for next rank. So instead of giving them the black belt, I give them a Kari Shodan. So if that kid is 10 years old and getting ready for their junior black, what they would call it, I make them wear that Kari Shodan until they are 16 years old.
Correct.
They will wear that Kari Shodan when they turn 16. They go before a board and they test again for the black belt. But there's just the black belt. There's no rank.
No, just the black.
That 16-year-old is just about going into high school.
Correct.
Okay? By the time that 16-year-old graduates high school, they're about 18 years old. They get the test for their first-degree black belt at the age of 18. At 18 years old, they should be on their way going into college. If they don't go into college and they get a job or go in the military, that's great. But as they keep on going, at the age of 21, they test for their second dan.
Correct.
Now, I got that from Japan.
Right.
And that's how Japan does it. And that's how I do with my students. I have had people come from other dojos that had children that had 3rd and 4th degree black belt on and bring them to me to teach them. And they would say, well, can my child keep their belt? And I go, no.
No.
What are you talking about? No. I go, the instructor put a black belt on your child. Your child has got 4 red stripes on his black belt. How old is your child? 12 years old. There are no 12-year-old 4th degree black belts. No way. Well, can they join your dojo and wear that belt? Nope. They have to drop that belt. What do you mean? They drop that rank and everything. You are not slapping my kids and my students in their face coming into my dojo wearing a black belt with a 4th degree black belt. And basically, there is a lot of responsibility when a person puts a black belt around their waist.
Correct.
That goes for a child. A child's mind isn't fully developed to be wearing a full black belt around their waist. 16 years old, their mind is fully developed. They know right from wrong, and they know what life is all about.
You know, for a little bit of time that I had gone through this struggle with other schools who were doing, lack of a better term, garbage. And I felt so bad about, because it's not the teacher. I'm not so much concerned about the teachers teaching bad, whatever. What about the people who are paying their money and their kids are being affected by bad teaching? That seems to hurt my feelings.
It does. And the thing is here, their children are learning bad martial arts. While they're learning bad martial arts, the instructors walk into the bank laughing and counting his money, you know, and these kids are thinking that they're learning something really good, and they're really not. The instructor is teaching them how to get killed. And a good teacher, like I said before, a good teacher teaches his students how to live, not how to fight. Anybody can fight.
Now, you know, as the Grandmaster Council, is there, you know, I know there's no way to regulate schools and things like that. There was times I always think about knocking on some of these schools and going back to the old 70s and 80s and challenging the instructor. So,
I remember those days.
And then if whatever happens, you close the door, shut the door, and you know, hang it up.
Right.